It's no surprise that people will be more supportive of things that they've helped to build. And when you're working across boundaries and time zones and cultures, this is extremely important. Perhaps the most nuanced part of global training, and for most Americans the hardest to grasp, are the language and cultural considerations. It's just our human nature to assume that people think and understand language in the same way that we do, but that's clearly not always the case. We might assume that our content and our materials will always be relevant and effective, but there are some very important cultural differences in how people interpret messages. So as an example of this, a leadership development program might emphasize an organization's core values as part of the program. One of those core values might be that people treat each other with respect. This is common throughout some large organizations. And while this seems straightforward enough, there are some vast differences in meaning between some of the Eastern and Western cultures. So when giving performance feedback, Americans can interpret this to mean that they should provide brutally honest information about every specific aspect of someone's behavior. But in Japan, being respectful means that feedback should be more minimal and even complimentary. So something in your training program that is central to the rest of the program and that you took for granted can actually cause big problems during the program itself. So again, having collaborators from different locations can help prevent these sorts of issues. And even if the core concepts are meaningful across locations, it's probably true that the instruction and materials will all need to be translated or in some way modified in different ways to account for the language, cultural, and learning preferences of people worldwide. As an example, here at TRACOM, we offer our social style model in dozens of countries. And while English is widely accepted as the global business language, we've translated our social style profile into almost 20 languages, and we have dozens of country and geographic norms. So let's take a look at how this makes the training more effective. One of our customers is a major hotel operator with locations worldwide. As part of their customer experience program, they teach interpersonal skills based on our social style model. Now consider a French employee who was promoted to a position at a hotel in Berlin. He probably prefers to complete a survey in his native French, but his colleagues use their own languages of German, English, and Spanish. But because he's working in Germany, his behavior will be compared against others in Germany. His actual training program will be conducted in English. So if this sounds complicated, getting the survey to the right person in the right language at the right time, it sure can be. The important thing is to make the process seem straightforward and seamless to the participant, and this can be done by thinking through all of these issues and doing a lot of upfront planning and work. At TRACOM, we've spent an awful lot of time designing our survey platform to account for these different language scenarios. And I'd recommend that you spend time up front considering your own training programs and the systems that you'll need to put in place. The inclusion of local language and cultural nuances goes a long way to reducing resistance to the training. It's hard to object to a program as being not applicable here when it's proven to work locally and it's offered in a way that's culturally relevant and in the local language.
And for an international look at culture and language implications, we're now joined by Graham Price. Graham is the principal with Accelerate UK, TRACOM's distributor in the United Kingdom. Graham, how important are you finding that language capabilities and cultural knowledge are when it comes to effective training in Europe?
I think this whole issue around culture is coming to the fore more and more now. Certainly many organisations are asking us now to deliver in multiple languages. And in fact, it's almost a prerequisite to doing business these days. So if you can't do that, you just can't get past the first hurdle. We've been looking at building our capability in multiple languages such as French, German, Italian, and increasingly the trend is we're being asked for native speakers as well. One of the things that we've noticed, certainly in the Middle East over the last couple of years, whereas most of the training was being carried out in English, there really is a requirement now for trainers to be able to be speaking Arabic and English. So it creates an issue for a lot of organisations that don't have the ability to speak Arabic as well.
Thanks, Graham. I'd like to pose that question to Carlos Sabat as well. Carlos, what advice can you provide when developing training content for international training?
When developing content for international training, content developers should pay attention significantly to the purpose, values, and objectives of the organization, which must remain constant throughout the whole organization, and adapt maybe about 20% of it, so in such a way that it would make it applicable for the country in which local practices would allow it, be it cultural, political, religious, or what have you, especially in the area of values. So that is really critical. When it comes to language, as I discussed earlier, professional translators, subject matter experts with the command of the local customs and culture must be used in order to avoid grammatical mistakes and ensure that the correct meaning of the subject at hand is really, really coming through in the materials. Translations done in the country of origin usually do not take into consideration the local language, and the examples used in the materials by and large are related to the American culture.
Thank you, Carlos. David, let's now take a look at data security, technical, and legal issues.
Data security and compliance has legal requirements, technical hurdles, and can be costly. Some of the questions that you need to be asking, are you or your vendors aware of all the restrictions? Are you able to comply with them if you are aware? The myriad of regulations regarding data and personal privacy issues abound. These apply to things such as employee opinion surveys, learning management systems, employee databases, as well as individual training initiatives. Pretty much any time you collect someone's first name, last name, telephone number, or email address, you've now begun to step into the arena of data privacy issues, and you need to give some of those issues some real serious thought. In the U.S., there is a CAN spam law. The European Union has its own EU 9546 regulations that limits what you can and can't do with data. And individual countries sometimes have their own laws. Typically, such regulations focus on cross-border data flow, but some also address data within the borders of a given country. Some other technical considerations include things like response times when you're accessing a computer application from outside of a country, and also some things like data backup systems and how well and quickly you're able to access those backups, not to mention how well you actually have those backups secured. Protection of personal data is always paramount. If your system includes Social Security or similar ID numbers, the rigor of the security is extra critical. How are usernames and passwords created and protected? Does the system allow someone to use the word password or change me as the password, or does it feature robust levels of security to deter hackers? The same goes for security in systems with credit card processing or other financial transactions. Is the system vulnerable to viruses or other malicious technology? Remember, just because a training initiative was successful in pilot doesn't mean it will scale globally. The bottom line is that while technology can be an effective platform for delivering training content, it also creates numerous challenges to protect individual and organizational data in a legal and operationally efficient way. And I can tell you that legal and technical compliance is absolutely a cost of doing business. Today, more and more is being expected of organizations that use technology to deliver training across borders. Here at TRACOM, I can tell you our experience is that in the last year alone, we've had 3 different clients conduct independent audits on our system. When they audited us, they came in looking at our data privacy and our data security standards to make sure that we met with a world-class standard set that they themselves were enforcing throughout their organization. These audits were all done by the organizations at their own cost. In fact, I had a client joke with me not long ago that the audit that they gave us probably had a value of close to 6 figures on what they would typically charge one of their own customers to perform. So as you can see, organizations take data privacy and data security with a very high degree of seriousness. And this is an area that most of us in the HR and learning area typically don't have a lot of experience with, and it's something that we're going to need to pay attention to. This will likely require a lot of cross-functional coordination throughout your organization with groups in IT, groups in information security, groups in legal, and also many organizations today have people dedicated to data privacy compliance issues as well.